Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and welcome to Teachers Using Existing Video in Their Classrooms. In this video, let's consider how and why teachers should use existing video in their classes. And then let's go ahead and explore some sources of educational video. And then let's wrap up by getting an overview of the educational activities for this week's class. While many times teachers like to create their own video resources, sometimes it's good to utilize already created resources. For example, you can bring in a speaker who could be an expert in that topic area, which could be stimulating to the students and motivational to them. In the process, you'll be using professionally prepared video in many cases. You can have access to different resources that you normally wouldn't have access to in the classroom without this video resource. You could vary the teaching voice in the classroom, which adds more validity to what you're teaching the students. And also, if you're under pressure to create a lot of video in a hurry, or if you're looking to transition or do a quick start into flipping the classroom, using existing instructional video is a good way to start. While we're considering how teachers can incorporate existing instructional video into their classrooms, let's pause for a moment and look at some aspects of video effectiveness. Consider some of these points from various recent studies. If you use word-for-word text in the video, in other words, a direct transcript, that tends to detract from the learning process. Only use key text points from the audio that is happening in that video presentation. Also, coherence, in other words, the progression of ideas, the building of a story, the describing of the educational content, is more important than transitions and graphics with any type of movement. In fact, many studies have suggested that if you're too flashy and using too much movement in video, that this can actually reduce learning as it tends to detract and distract the learners. A number of studies suggest that a teacher who uses an informal conversational style of presentation in video, it's much more effective and provides much deeper learning experience than a teacher who uses a formal lecture presentation style. Further, a number of studies suggest that students engage better with videos that include images of the presenter. Now, it's helpful if you have a static picture of the presenter, but moreover, if you use a video of the teacher teaching, many times like in a picture-in-picture, that works very effectively due to the exposure of the students to the facial expressions and the body language of the presenter. And it helps to promote engagement with the video and with that teacher. Further, it helps to promote that sense of rapport and validity, because you see that instructor speaking, then the students tend to buy into the content much more effectively. Can video in the classroom support critical thinking? Unfortunately, there's not sufficient research performed yet to suggest that video can promote development of critical thinking. But video has been found to be effective in presenting different points of view, which can support the development of critical thinking. But blended learning that involves video plus some form of face-to-face learning, has significantly better outcomes than just video by itself in terms of supporting critical thinking. Because the development of critical thinking requires instant feedback and access to the mind of an expert critical thinker. So video plus some interaction with people makes it much more effective. I have found a number of recent studies that suggest that the median engagement time of a learning video is about 6 minutes. So if you look at it, 6 minutes is effective Videos of 9 to 12 minutes tend only to be watched by our students to a certain midway point, and then they shut it off. And if they're longer videos, like 12 to 40 minutes, that they rarely get played beyond about a quarter of the length of the entire video. And also, the studies have suggested that retention and engagement normally happens in the first 4 to 6 minutes. So, two thoughts to come out of this, out of these studies. Number one, keep your video short, maybe about 6-ish minutes, more or less. And further, if you're creating a much longer video, consider dividing that video into shorter videos and have more than one. Also consider that video can become an isolating experience for students unless the video is part of an integrated wider learning activity that involves access to either tutors or an instructor or other students. It has been found that self-study courses that rely on video have a significant dropout rate, largely due to the lack of the social contact with other learners and the instructor. And consider that video that presents information in a factual lecture-based type of manner has significantly lower levels of engagement than material that is just intellectually stimulating, things that are based around opinion and argument, problems, questions, stories. Having considered the effectiveness of using video in your classroom, let's now explore some sources of instructional video. Now let's consider some sources of educational video. Let's begin by looking at YouTube. A brief history, YouTube started in 2005. It was 3 former PayPal employees who activated the domain name youtube.com. A year later, Google purchased YouTube. By 2012, just 6 years after Google purchased YouTube, there were 60 new hours of video uploaded every minute. There were 800 million unique users, unduplicated users, a month. A year later, 2013, there were 1 billion unique users a month. In 2021, there were more than 2 billion users who logged in every month. Now, there are more users than that because we're not counting those who are not logged into the site. Almost 3/4 of American adults use YouTube, and about 80% of parents in the United States report that children 11 and under use YouTube. It is the second most visited site online after Google, and it's the second most used social platform after Facebook. There are more than 1 billion hours of video consumed every day on YouTube. About 40% of watch time happens on mobile devices, and 70% of viewers purchase a brand after seeing it advertised on YouTube. So when you notice those ads on YouTube, do they pay off? Apparently they do. Another video site is called TeacherTube, and that was launched in 2007. While it is not as popular as YouTube, it is still very much in use by educators and used in many classrooms. It is the source of some good educational video, but it's also a good site for teachers and their classrooms in their classes to produce video and publish it. Another popular source of educational video is Khan Academy, and you might be familiar with Khan Academy. Realize that it was also created around the same time as YouTube and TeacherTube in 2006. Its stated mission is to provide a free, world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And it's a great collection of thousands upon thousands of lectures through video. There are many sources of existing instructional video that would be very suitable for the classroom online. Many of these services provide their products for free. As one of our educational activities for this week's class, we're going to explore some of these sources of instructional video and evaluate to see if they would be usable in our classroom. Now, let's consider how to use video interaction tools with video that you use in the classroom. As teachers increasingly use video in their classrooms, if they assign video for an assignment, how does the teacher know that students are really watching the video and are really learning from the videos? Research has suggested that a question-embedded interactive video environment can solve that issue because this environment promotes student learning from video. It improves the amount of interaction that the student has with the content. It improves the amount of time spent with the learning material, and thus it can lead to better learning outcomes and higher learner achievement. By using a video interaction tool, you can turn a video from a passive to a more interactive experience for the learners, an experience that will more deeply engage those learners in the content. And thus, you will increase the understanding of the content for the students. You can then assess their comprehension of the video content through that embedded question technique. And thus, you increase the accountability of students who are using video, which you might be using as homework assignments for them. Two great apps that can help you create this question-embedded interactive video experience are Play Pose It and Edpuzzle. Both of these tools allow a teacher to start by selecting a video. Now, it can be a video on YouTube or Khan Academy, or it can be a video that you have posted to YouTube or another site. They both allow you to crop the video and only use the portion of video that you desire. They allow you to record your voice over parts of the video. And most importantly, they allow you to embed quiz questions. And then you can also view the results of the student responses to those questions. Both of these tools allow a teacher various analytics, grading, and different tools so that the teacher can understand how the class is faring as they watch these videos. If you are using Play Pose It, the steps involve designing a video bowl, as they call it, entering a YouTube or other URL, crop the video if needed, add some questions throughout the video, and then finally share the video either through assigning the video to a class or sharing the URL. So you can begin by creating a class, if you choose, in order to help you organize videos for your courses. Click Design in the upper right-hand corner to begin, and then proceed to add a URL for a YouTube video. If it's a longer video, you may opt to crop the video and only focus on a certain portion of it. Then as you watch this video, pause and add questions throughout. If you're using the free version, you'll have only a limited number of question types to use, and as with most tools, if you go pro, then you'll have more options. Then finish by either assigning the video to a class of people that you've already created, or copy a share URL and simply send that to your students. In summation, we learned that there is much research that suggests that the use of video can prove to be an effective learning tool in the classroom, and that there are many sources of instructional video, many of which are free. And finally, the use of a video interaction tool can allow a teacher to create a question-embedded interactive video environment that leads to higher comprehension and increased accountability. Now, let's wrap up by considering the educational activities that we're going to engage in week number 2 of our class. Our first activity will involve reading the article that I referenced in this video that deals with the question-embedded video learning environment and hold a discussion about it. As usual, I have provided some guiding questions to spark up our discussion. In preparation for creating our own instructor-created video, let's read a second article this week, one that deals with 6 keys for filming quality videos. And again, let's hold a discussion online about this, and I provided guiding questions to get our discussion started. For our third activity, let's hold a straight-up discussion that will allow us to process all this information that we're considering for this week's class. Let's focus on the question, how can a teacher increase learner accountability and promote greater learning from video? Activity 4 will be a hands-on activity and also will include an online debriefing. Let's use a video interaction tool. Start by selecting some existing video on YouTube, Khan Academy, or some other source that you might use as part of a lesson in your classroom. And then select either Play Pose It or Ed Puzzle and create an embedded question environment. Crop the video if needed, and then add 2 to 4 questions-ish to the video. It all depends on the length of the video that you're selecting and, of course, the maturity of the learners. And then post the link to your question-embedded video to the discussion board. Feel free to explore someone else's interactive video, and then let's debrief briefly on this discussion board. Activity 5 will allow us to explore some online sources of video content that we could possibly use in the classroom. Start by navigating to the shared document that's provided and pick 2 video sources that you would like to explore. This week, let's use the tool VoiceThread and briefly discuss the sources of video and ultimately suggest if these are viable resources for teachers to use in the classroom. Consider items such as what grade levels or ages are targeted, what kinds of subject matter are covered, does it appear to be quality content, is the site easy to navigate and to locate material, do you have any other insights, thoughts, or comments on the site, and again, ultimately, would you recommend a teacher using this site? For our last educational activity this week, let's hold a discussion in which we critique some existing educational video. Let's do this to apply what we considered in this week's class. We'll start by selecting something on YouTube, Khan Academy, or some other video site, something that's meant to instruct something, really any topic. Then evaluate the video in terms of things we considered in this week's class, like some of the keys to quality video, some of the do's and don'ts of video production, and also the instructional value of the video. And then, again, let's present that information and let's discuss it on a discussion board. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed this week's class where we consider the use of educational video in the classroom by teachers. Have a great week, and see you online.